RENEBOXYOUNG, what's going on? So I want to talk about how to save boxing. Why how to save boxing? Because a lot of people knew already about the whole Showtime Boxing, being dumped or whatever. A lot of people knew about it before it was officially announced, recently, which was, a blow to a lot of people, as a big, and a lot of people are speculating like, boxing, it's, people are worrying about the sport of boxing, and fighters, it seems like if they're not worrying about it, all of a sudden they're starting to talk about it. All of a sudden, ever since this whole Showtime thing happened, boxing, fighters are coming out and starting to talk about it, and oh, we got to do this and we got to do that, and I want to talk about it. You got people out there saying boxing is not going anywhere, which I have high hopes that that's the case. I think the sport of boxing is quite healthy, but it can get better. It can get better, and I think a lot of hardcore fans out there or whatever fans that have been following the sport for such a long time can agree that the sport can get a lot better. It definitely can, and because of a lot of things, there's so many things that can be fixed when it comes to the sport of boxing, and fighters are coming out and saying it, and there are different aspects to look at it. For example, Teofimo Lopez, he recently came out on social media or whatever, saying that yeah, I predicted, I'm paraphrasing, and kind of paraphrasing, a mix of several of his posts on social media, him talking about, yeah, I predicted it. Mind you, I sparked, with Teofimo, shouts out to him, I sparked the whole talk on him predicting that Showtime was going to, dump boxing on Twitter. And then he answered my tweet before anybody started talking about it. And I referenced him in a video of a couple years ago of him predicting that. And then he responded to my tweet, and it sparked a whole talk of him just, post after post talking about it before the official announcement came out. And then he deleted my tweet, but whatever, shouts out to Teo. But what I'm trying to say here is a mix of his posts, ever since this came out. Teofimo recently said also, as I predicted that Showtime was going to go out of, business, and when it comes to sport of boxing, I also predict approximately, I don't remember the exact time frame he gave, but like 7 to 10 years, boxing is going to go down, or it's going to be obsolete or whatever, however he termed it. So you got fighters coming out and kind of like, it looks like they're worrying about it. It looks like they're like, oh my gosh, we got to do something now, Amongst these fighters are Terrence Crawford, okay? Terrence Crawford's coming out saying that, we got to do this, we got to do that. Ryan Garcia, he's coming out, he said something that we have to get together and we got to, as a collective, Terrence Crawford agreeing with Ryan Garcia, saying that the system needs to get fixed. If we don't fix it, we got to think together, we got to build an empire, and we got to do it right, and this and that, and so fighters are coming out, and Terrence Crawford continues posting things. Now he's going back and forth with Oscar De La Hoya, something, whatever he said, and Terrence Crawford disagreeing with him and saying, no, we have to have fighters at the table negotiating whatever they negotiate for fights and contracts and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. My point in all this is this, that ever since the whole Showtime boxing is dead now, or it's going to be dead soon or whatever, these fighters are coming out talking. A lot of people are coming out talking. Some say that it's not going to die. The sport of boxing is not going to die. It's just changing. Others say, well, yeah, hey, boxing is in dire straits. It's in huge jeopardy. We can lose the sport. This is what I think about it. Okay, this is what I think. It's a trip because I also went on a forum and I posted this question on how to save boxing or what have you. Fans, when it comes to fans out there are saying, well, they got to do this, they got to do that. We got to eliminate, all these sanctioning bodies. That's a start. They got to make a union, and just a whole bunch of brilliant ideas. I'm not saying they're not. What Ryan Garcia is coming out saying, he has brilliant ideas. What Teofimo is coming out and saying, he has brilliant ideas. What Terrence Crawford is coming out and saying, he has brilliant ideas. But this is the thing about it, and this is what catches my attention. Everybody is saying everything from, making a union, like what I mentioned a moment ago. No, we got to get together as a collective, and if not, the sport is going to die, and we got to make, marketing strategies, new audiences and investors and blah, blah, and, we got to build empires and all this stuff, man. Everyone's saying all these things, but nobody is saying that the best have to fight the best more. Nobody is talking about equally competitive matchups in all levels. What do I mean by that? That, you know, whether you're top 10, whether you're the lower tier of the top 10 or the top 15, make equally competitive matchups according to fighters' level and skill set more often and more consistently and all the way up the ladder. You see? Because when you go back to yesteryear in the sport of boxing, when you go back to the glory years of the sport of boxing, or the golden age, or whatever they call it, you know, the Oscar de la Hoya age, the Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., you know, George Foreman, Muhammad Ali, etc., etc. When you go back to those days, there were more competitive, equally matched competitive fights in several levels, in all levels of the, you know, of the rankings in the sport of boxing. You saw more unifications. You saw more champs versus champs. You saw a lot more of the best fighting the best in a more consistent fashion. And so many people, they don't see further than 2023 or behind that, because a lot of people say this to the defense of the sport. They're like, you know, yeah, well, you know, Showtime has a great year in 2023. Look at all these great fights. Well, yeah, that's just in 2023. Had, you know, these platforms, had these promoters and promotional companies, had they done what PBC did, or Showtime, or whatever, what they did in 2023, and as a whole, all these platforms and promotional companies, had they done in other years what they did in 2023, you know, maybe Showtime wouldn't have to dump boxing. Maybe HBO wouldn't have disappeared. HBO Boxing, at least, you know. So that's the thing about it. Everybody is bringing these wonderful ideas and wonderful, you know, strategies, you know, to quote unquote save the sport, you know, I mean, people are even talking about they got to get rid of corruption in the sport. And yeah, that's wonderful. It has to be done. The judges, y'all know the story. But no one's talking about, you know, ever since the Showtime, I'm talking about ever since the Showtime, you know, dumping boxing came out officially. No one's talking about the sport. You know, promoters, fighters need to be equally matched up more often. And you see this going on in the UFC. You see this going on in BKFC, you know, bare knuckle. You see more equally competitive bouts and matchups and events, and they're huge. And fans run to that because in the sport of boxing, we don't see it as often. You know, I'm talking about the last decade approximately of the sport. You don't see it as often. Of course, we do see great fights, you know, but they're not as often. You know, so these, and you see in the sports of, you know, and UFC, or, you know, BKFC, a lot of these fighters and a lot of the champs already have losses in their records. That's the problem. Fighters nowadays, when it comes to the sport of boxing, they want to protect their O too much, you know, and they want to, you know, now this is debatable. I just pushed a video recently about it, you know, about Eddie Hearn talking about, are these fighters getting paid too much? I mean, I am for fighters getting the most money they can, but, you know, there's a risk to that. I mean, it seems like there's a reason Dana White ain't paying his fighters as much. Maybe there's a reason to why David Feldman isn't paying his fighters that much, but that's a debate. I know it is. Are fighters getting too comfortable and complacent, fighting mediocre fights for big paydays? Maybe so, ladies and gentlemen. I think the sport of boxing, these promoters, fighters, have to agree that, you know what, we got to start fighting competition that's equal. You know, equal competition, equal competitors according to my skill set and status. You know, but I don't know, man. I can continue on this, but what do you think in the comment section? Please comment. I need to hear you on this. How do you think the sport of boxing can get better? So, hey, comment in the comment section. RENEBOXYOUNG. Peace.